First it was the DACA and the Dreamers, and over the weekend I see that Trump wants to go back into the Paris Climate Accords. And it was the Wall Street Journal. I mean, the Wall Street Journal, I mean, they're iffy on occasion, but they're not generally known as routine fake news. You don't first assume fake news when you see something in the Wall Street Journal. And it turns out it was fake news. Maybe. Rex Tillerson says, we're thinking about heading back into Paris. And H.R. McMaster says, no way we're going back into Paris. If that happens, that's a bigger deal than the DACA thing. The DACA thing is a small subset of illegal immigration. But if we dovetail and do a 180 and head back into the Paris Climate Accords, even if we renegotiate for quote-unquote more favorable terms, that would be very problematic for me. I'm just telling you, I don't know where the rest of you are going to come down on it, but that would be a big, big deal and a big, big problem for me. Now, you can have fun with that all you will, but apparently it's not the case. We will try to unpack it and unravel it as the program unfolds. I love that the media is going nuts over Trump's tweet, the retweet of his golf shot hitting Hillary and knocking her face flat at the top of the stairs on an airplane. I love that the media is just, and the never-Trumpers are having palpitations. If they're wearing heart rate monitors, they're off the charts. They just can't believe it. It's so unpresidential. It's so horrible. How could anybody, this is so offensive. This is so beneath the office. It's so this. Yeah, but it's, you know what? It's, in many ways, it's real. And Trump knows it's going to tick him off. And then calling the pot-bellied dictator in North Korea Rocket Man, said he called a premier of Japan, said Rocket Man. Mr. Limbaugh, would you be laughing if this is something that Bill Clinton or Barack Obama did? I don't know. You know, I would have to laugh at it. I would have to laugh. I mean, because first place, Obama doesn't play golf, so any video of Obama doing a golf swing would be like Obama in the mom jeans throwing out the first pitch at the Washington Nationals. That itself was a national embarrassment. But if Obama was faking a golf swing and the golf ball happened to knock, Mitt Romney off the roof of his station wagon while he was putting the dog up there, I might laugh at it. But Obama is not capable of calling Kim Jong-un Rocket Man. It's a stark difference. I'm also detecting, folks, you know, we sit here, we study cultural. I have forgotten to tell you a big thing. You people, you callers to this program made the Sunday shows and cable TV all weekend. It's the first time, maybe not the first time in 29 years, but if not, it's rare that the callers, audio tape of callers to this program were played and discussed by David Brooks on PBS, by F. Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, by other places. You'll hear the sound bites coming up. We're going to lead with those. Yeah, wait till you hear this. I don't know if you heard the program much last week because you're involved in hurricane cleanup and so forth. Have you got your power back? When did you get your power back? A few days ago. Still no internet, no TV. Oh, you got that back last night. Okay, so you don't know what happened. When the DACA Dreamer thing happened, you know, callers, Trump supporters called and said they didn't care. They're going to stick with the guy no matter what. They think he's 2 or 3 steps ahead of people. He doesn't really mean it. There's something crafty going on that nobody can. You wait, you'll hear it. That's why the callers, because they would not abandon Trump. See, the drive-bys are waiting. That's their prime objective. Separate Trump supporters from Trump. And they thought the DACA deal or making deals with Chuck and Nancy would do it. But no. Now, we don't take enough calls here for anything to be scientific, but every call we got from a Trumpist, and there were a few of them, not a single one claimed they were going to abandon Trump. And I had morning consult polling data last Friday that shows a majority of Trump people will not abandon him if he indeed grants amnesty to the Dreamers. Anyway, all that's coming up. We observe cultural shifts here. This is one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing, and I've noticed some things. I didn't watch the Emmys last night, but hardly did anybody else either. We may have a record low viewership for the Emmys last night. I don't care what you think. If you did watch it, if you've heard about it, sure, it was a 3-hour or however long it went, bash, humiliate, embarrass Trump fest, but that's not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is Hollywood, in its most prestigious award show for the television industry, devoted all 3 hours to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in a strict owning of media time, if you simply look at it the way a lot of people do, the old saw, it doesn't matter what they say as long as they spell your name right. Donald Trump owned it. The best thing these clowns could do, and they're I think incapable of it, is to ignore him. But the reason they won't, the reason they did that last night, they're talking to each other. They are expressing their bona fides to each other. They're letting everybody in the industry know that they're all on the same "we hate Trump" page. That's the purpose of it. So as to not be mistaken, not to be confused. They don't want the powers that be in Hollywood to think there's anybody in there that is in the Trump camp. So they went overboard, making sure everybody in that industry knows they hate Trump. It was political correctness on display. I don't think anybody's going to portray it that way, but that to me is what it was, because it was so over the top, it was unnatural. People are not capable of that much hatred. It had to be, some of it had to be manufactured, and the reason it was is because they're talking to each other. They are assuring each other that they are still in the politically correct place to be, and that is Trump hatred. And in the meantime, the audience continues to shrink. If the early numbers make it look like it could beat last year's record low by just a little bit. But even if it's not last year's record low, it is way, way down from what the Emmys used to be. And I just know, folks, do not doubt me on this, that the people that did watch it are not all Trump haters. And the people that watched that show last night, after a while, I'm sure had to say, okay, we get it. You hate Trump. In other words, there's going to be some degree, some level of backlash that will never be recorded because pollsters and drive-bys will not even think that display last night could backfire. They're just ready to give it gold stars and so. But you know what I've noticed? You look at the audience, way, way down. The numbers, I haven't seen them yet for this weekend's action in the National Football League, but my guess is it ain't going to shoot up by very much if it does. There just wasn't that much compelling, although last night with the Emmys, with a record low, the only thing new on last night that might have been competition was Ray Donovan on Showtime, and that wouldn't be much. So maybe Sunday Night Football had a good night. We'll find out. But overall, the Emmy thing last night, I didn't watch it. I don't think a lot of people, I think people are getting sick of things. I think we're getting sick of Hollywood. I think people are getting sick of football, or they're wearing out on it. And you know what else? You know what else didn't get covered? The riots in St. Louis. And there are dead people. There are tremendous numbers of injuries, and the drive-bys didn't go. Somebody explain that to me. I mean, it was billed as Ferguson 2.0. And the organizers of the riots intended it to be Ferguson 2.0, but it wasn't Ferguson 2.0 because there wasn't a Michael Brown. Well, there was, but nobody knows who, outside of St. Louis. And the drive-bys didn't go there. I mean, not like they did in Ferguson. Ferguson was wall-to-wall, 24/7, day after day after day. Have you seen any footage? Well, you haven't. The Republican governor said he was going to shut down any mine. No, I don't think it's anything the Republican governor. It may be, but I mean, from the beginning, the riots started last week. We predicted they were going to happen. They said they were going to do it. On Thursday or Friday, I forget which, our Blowtorch affiliate in St. Louis preempted the program to go all local to cover the riots. But there wasn't any national TV coverage of these things. So in essence, to a lot of people, they didn't happen. They did, don't misunderstand. And it was violent and it was raucous. But nobody knows because it didn't get covered. So I wonder why. Drive-bys could barely muster the energy to cover them, much less wall-to-wall as they have in the past. Maybe it's the fact that the actual event was 4 years ago when it happened, but still. Now, I didn't watch the Emmys last night, but I'm wondering if there were any awards for TV anchors on election night. Did any of them, does anybody know, did any TV anchors on election night win an Emmy? I mean, that kind of raw emotion needs to be recognized. I mean, these drive-by anchors, remember 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, Hillary cruising to a landslide. Nate Silver is assuring everybody she's got an 84% chance of winning. And it wasn't until 9 o'clock, and Chris Wallace at Fox News was first. He's looking at the Fox big board, and he said, you know what? And he points, you know what? I'm looking, Donald Trump could win this. And there was a gasp and dead silence for 2 or 3 seconds, and then all the other participants on the set joined in. There's like somebody broke the ice. It was Chris Wallace that did it. And that was around 9 o'clock. And once that happened, the tide turned. Now, the election tide had already been determined. And they're counting votes as though they're still happening when the votes are all in. I mean, the outcome is what it is. We just don't know because the votes haven't been counted. But they report this as though the votes are still being taken and they're still being counted and anything can happen. But the result was established. It just was yet to be determined because all the votes had not yet been counted. But, I mean, some of those primetime anchors, I have never seen raw emotion. I've never seen going from tip-top of the world, ecstatic, happy, to bottom of the barrel depression and disappointment. And I would think at least some of those people would deserve an Emmy for staying on the set and not walking out like Dan Rather did once. Dan Rather, a tennis match went long, and it was gonna preempt some of the CBS Evening News, and they get mad. And just walked off the set. There's no way tennis should take precedence over the news. So you have so much of the national news coverage is stilted, but not when Trump is the topic. When Trump's the issue, and he's always the issue, news personalities display rage, tears, depression, slander, foul-mouthed rants. It's a panoply of negativity. It's a rainbow of rage. Certainly some anchor should have won an Emmy last night. Peer recognition certainly called for. But I'm sure it didn't happen. Okay, let me take a break here a little early. We'll come back, have some time on the other side, and we'll get started with you, the callers of this program, being talked about, analyzed, and covered on cable and network. And the NFL numbers are down. The NFL and NBC, the Atlanta victory over the Packers, 12.6, 21 in metered market numbers. And that's with 50 of 56 markets reported. It's not all in. It's an 8% drop from the comparable game last year, which is Green Bay, Minnesota. The 8:30 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time game last night clinched a primetime win for NBC. But compared to the blowout opener last Sunday night, it was down 20%. The Giants-Cowboys game had a 20% higher number. So the NFL remains challenged. You see the empty seats in San Diego? See, I did it. They're not in San Diego. They are where? In Carson, California. They play at someplace called a StubHub. You know what the StubHub is? Yeah, well, what is it? StubHub is a ticket, online ticket play, yeah. And it's a soccer stadium. People who get concussions playing soccer play in there. It's got a capacity of 27,000. And there were empty seats for the Los Angeles Chargers and the Dolphins. Now, up in Los Angeles, up the road in L.A. at the Coliseum, the Rams played the Redskins. And they had 50 some odd. The combined attendance for those two games was about 80,000. The day before, Texas and UCLA had 81,000 in the same Coliseum. I think it was UCLA. No. It would have been USC. UCLA played and lost or dramatic to somebody else. Some team called it Tigers with blue uniforms. And I saw the greatest video today. Saw a tweet video. Somebody sent it to me because Boise State. You know, you people don't see this because TV doesn't show you, but after every kickoff, there's a tee out there at the 35-yard line. And they have to go get it because it is a hazard. You know, a player could trip on it or turn an ankle on it or what have you. Normally, a sideline employee for the team hustles out there after the kickoff return is blown dead. Boise State has a dog on the sideline with its trainer, a woman, and she signals the dog to go out and get the tee. The dog gets it, happy as it can be, brings it back, stopped about 5 yards short of the sideline, dropped it, played with it a little bit, and brought it back to the sideline. Cutest thing. If you love animals, it's the cutest thing. The Houston Oilers had the greatest guy ever, Mojo, who became a star. He was an employee for the Oilers. He became a star, running out to get the tee and running off to bring it back to the sideline. Ask people in Houston. They'll know what I'm talking about, Mojo. Anyway, your audio sound bites from the Sunday shows are coming up. Drive-By Media is a soap opera now, and the script is written by people in the swamp. I'm just trying to help. It seems that the people really deserving of recognition last night didn't get any, and that's the primetime news anchors that catered and caved on election night. Okay. And by the way, the Republican Senate is working on a brand new repeal or replace Obamacare bill, and they're highlighting this thing, and we can actually get this done. It gets rid of both mandates, gets rid of the personal mandate and the business mandate, but it maintains the Obamacare taxes for a while. We'll have to see. They obviously feel the pressure to do something on this. I wonder why. 7 years of promises. But anyway, we'll delve into that as the program unfolds. Here's Chuck Todd. F. Chuck Todd, meet the press. F. Chuck, of course, they're trying to stir things. They would love for me to bail on Trump. They would love to tell people I'm bailing on Trump. That's not what happened. They took that out of context. Here's what I actually said. Here's the whole thing. The first version is what makes the impression. This is a very frustrating thing to me, by the way, because I'm lied about so much and I don't respond to most of it. Even when I do, what are the odds? The first thing that's reported is what people believe. Even sophisticates, even people understand how the media works, even people understand the tricks, the subterfuge, the deceit, the dishonesty, even those people fall for the first thing that's reported. Now, I'm not defending Trump. What I'm telling you folks is, I don't know yet. But it looks to me like Trump is tweeting all morning long that there is no deal, period, and there certainly isn't a deal on getting rid of the wall. It may happen later, but it's not gotten rid of. It's not gone. Boil everything down. Is Trump, I'm asking you, who voted for him, is he this tone deaf? Is he this ignorant? Does he not know what got him elected? Does he? And I'm telling you, some of the staunchest Trump supporters are out there, and they've jumped ship. Now, see, they took me out of context because I was talking about you. I was asking you how you felt. I was not issuing it. But look, my whole point, the first thing that's reported is what people remember. F. Chuck took it out of context because that's what he heard because that's what he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear that I had thrown Trump under the bus and overboard at the same time, which has not happened. Anyway, no big deal there. I just wanted to show you how that happens and how when people are taken out of context, this is how. Now we go back to F. Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, talking about the focus of his program Sunday morning, asking whether me or Donald Trump hold sway over his base.
Who does control the Trump base? Is it talk radio? Is it Rush Limbaugh? Backlash from high-profile members of his insurgent base. Think Rush Limbaugh. Who's got more sway over his insurgent supporters? Is it Trump himself, or is it folks like Rush Limbaugh?
That's Chuck Todd number of times on Meet the Depressed yesterday, making the rounds. Those are actual when he's appearing on shows promoting Meet the Press. Trying to get people to tune in and watch it, and so forth. And so, throwing it out there, who controls Trump's voters? Is it Trump or Rush Limbaugh? Who do you think controls Trump voters? Dawn, who do you think controls Trump voters? Ooh, she had to hesitate there. She had to hesitate. Her answer was nobody controls Trump voters. Okay, now we move on. David Brooks, the PBS NewsHour, Friday night. They had a fill-in anchor named Harvey Srinivasan. And David Brooks is the, I guess this is his segment. No, he's being interviewed, so this is not his segment with Maxie Shields. Question, what does this do to his die-hard fans, the ones that show up in the middle of winter at his rallies?
The evidence so far is that it doesn't really hurt him. There are a lot of people who are burning their MAGA hats, the Make America Great Again hats, because they're upset. But if you look, a lot of the people are calling into the Rush Limbaugh show. They want to drain the swamp, and they don't like Mitch McConnell very much. And if he goes against Mitch McConnell and he changes things up in Washington, so far the evidence is they're willing to stick with Trump and not really walk away from him.
What is Brooks doing listening to this program? That's a first. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he heard about it. Because I think apparently you people calling this program last week was a buzz topic of conversation among drive-by media types. Here is Saturday, CNN, Michael Smerconish's program. And he's no guest here. He's just introducing and playing a montage of calls to this program last week.
I want to play for you 30 seconds of sound from Rush Limbaugh's program on Thursday because it speaks to the concern that you have that he will lose his base. Roll that tape.
I'm not going to give up on Trump, even if he starts to move to the left to get something done with tax reform.
I truthfully think he will drain the swamp, and he's showing people that the swamp has nothing to do with party affiliation.
I think that he's always 3 steps ahead of Pelosi, the Democrats, and the Republicans. And so I think this was a power play that he did.
Every Trump person that I've talked to, everyone from any walk of life, has said pretty much the same thing. If Trump has to work with Democrats to get some of what he wants done, so be it. You know, there's a fascinating story in my stack here today. Let me dig down deep and find this, because it's essentially a story about how both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are finished. They just don't know it yet. And it's a fascinating piece. It's the only piece of its kind. It's by a guy named Jake Novak at CNBC. The party's over. Republicans and Democrats are both finished. Now, normally a story like this I would pass over because this kind of claim is ridiculous. The parties are not over. But why are people saying this? And you have to keep something in perspective here. If you believe the media of years and years and years of coverage, you would believe that they are desperate for bipartisanship. They are desperate for Washington to work. They are desperate for politicians of both parties to cross the aisle, but especially they want Republicans to cross the aisle. They want Republicans to work with Democrats to get things done. They don't like gridlock. You've heard this I don't know how many times in how many years. Washington's broken, the parties hate each other, so much division, so much partisanship, and they treat it as a historical terrible thing for the country, and they just dream and they hope and they wax eloquent about bipartisan. And now they've all heard your calls to this program last week where you said you don't care if Trump has to work with Democrats to get his agenda passed. You don't care. Whatever it takes. Trump voters are, in fact, the actual kind of voters the drive-bys have been dreaming of. But now they hate Trump voters because they voted for Trump. Here you have the exact voters the media has been claiming that we need. They've been clamoring for voters who will do and vote for people who will get things done, who don't care about party. Of course, that's BS. I mean, the media wants the end of the Republican Party. Don't misunderstand. I'm not changed my tune on this, but they're getting exactly what they've always wanted, and they still aren't happy. You know, it'll be music to their ears. Trump voters willing to stick with Trump while he works with the enemy, Chuck and Nancy, if that's how he has to get his agenda done. What it really means is that Trump voters really don't care about party. They care about honesty and fealty to issues. And right now, Trump voters, I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, are livid at Republicans. Because Republicans ostensibly are the same party that Trump's in. So theoretically, they should all be unified, working together to advance a common agenda. But it has become very clear that the Republicans in Washington agenda isn't what Trump's is, and so there isn't any cooperation. And I say again, this is where it's so short-sighted. If these guys, and not all Republicans are this, some of them are willing to work with Trump. Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, there's a lot of them there, but they're not a majority. And certainly the leadership in the House and Senate are still opposed to Trump. Can you believe if for just, in these past 6 months, if just for 3 of those months, there had been unity in the effort to repeal and replace Obamacare, to get started on real tax reform that includes real tax cuts, and if there had been movement, you don't have to get signed legislation on all 3 of these. If there had just been serious movement with the appearance of genuine unity on those 3 things, then the Democrat Party would be out of existence for the next 20 or 25 years. Now, there would have to be something done. Those 3 items, something would have to happen. You can't just survive on effort alone. There would have to be some success. But there hasn't even been that. And there's still time for it in the next 6 months, because the 2018 midterms are coming up. And the way it's going, if they're not careful, the Republicans could lose the House in 2018, folks. There are a lot of Republicans talking about retiring. A lot of them from California. You don't want Republicans quitting in California. That's the easiest state for Democrats to claim seats because of I don't care how districts are drawn, the overall party imbalance there is way, way out of kilter. Republicans hardly exist. They could lose the House. And they could forestall that if just in sometime in the next 6 months, if there were just 3 months where they were working together on the agenda. Trump's not blameless. Don't misunderstand. But neither were they. There are ways this could happen. But Trump voters realize there isn't any such effort and probably isn't any such desire on the part of the Republican leadership. So when Trump says he's going to do whatever he has to do with Chuck and Nancy to deal with the DACA and the Dreamers, and if it means the wall is going to get built, they're all in. They're not going to abandon Trump. And the drive-bys heard this, and were playing your phone calls all weekend long because it depressed them. They were sure. They were sure that Trump working with Chuck and Nancy would force you Trumpists to abandon him in droves. Instead, you know what's happening? Democrat voters are ticked off at Chuck and Nancy. The hatred for Trump is so bad, they don't want Chuck and Nancy, even if it advances every left-wing agenda item. They don't want Trump being part of it. And they're ticked. It turns out that the greater harm here is actually happening to the Democrats over this. Another bit of news that doesn't fit inside the old consensus of conventional wisdom. Back in a moment. Brand new week of Broadcast Excellence. It's Melissa, Woodbridge, Virginia. Welcome. I'm glad you called. Hi.
Hi, Russ. Thank you for taking my call. You were talking about the rating decrease in the Emmys, and I think that it would be equally low if the show had all been pro-left. Sorry. People are watching those shows. They don't want to be lectured to. They don't want politics. They just want their fluff. And we've canceled subscriptions to Entertainment Weekly and People Magazine in the last little while because it's just being lectured. Everything's politics.
Yeah, it's a good point. The same thing's happening at ESPN. They're losing subscribers. Her point, I don't know if you can hear it. Was that a child that was, Her point was that even if they'd gone all in for Hillary, if it would have been a pro-Hillary fest, that it would have still bombed ratings-wise. I didn't see it. Some of you who may have watched are going to have to tell me something. My theory is that Trump humor from the left isn't even humor, it's hate. And it's not even really funny. Ridiculous things like, are you happy to live in a country that elected Nazis? Or a Nazi, or some such thing as that. Well, nobody thinks that Trump is a Nazi or a Nazi supporter. But they do. I mean, it's not funny. And they bring Sean Spicer out to start making a joke about the crowd size, going back to Trump obsessing over the size of the crowd at his inauguration. I don't know what Spicer was thinking going on this show, but there's no way he's going to end up being treated favorably or with respect. He's going to be part of the joke, no matter what they say to him, no matter how much they lie to him about how much they appreciate him coming on. I've been there, folks. I've had all these things happen to me. But 3 straight hours of supposed comedy. I think Melissa is right. This is not why people want to be entertained. Politics has ceased being entertaining to people anyway. There was a time politics in the hands of a seasoned professional like me. I mean, I can make it funny. But the drive-bys don't make it. Politics has become frustrating. Politics has become something that makes you mad. Politics has become something that you don't believe in anymore. And these people trying to turn their hate for Trump into humor, I don't think they get past the hate. And they're counting on that hate to be a bridge. What are they going to say to themselves when they find out they're near a record low? See, in their minds, the whole country thinks of Trump the way they do. In their minds, they should have set a ratings record last night. What will their honest reaction be when they find? Well, I know what it'll be. They'll be in denial. Anyway, brief timeout. We roll on after this. Hillary Clinton smack in the middle of back at the top of the steps getting on the airplane, and she flies forward and falls flat on her face, which happened. Just like she stumbled and nearly fell forward on her face getting into the van on the 9/11 day where she had to leave the 9/11 ceremonies in Manhattan a little early. She wasn't feeling well. And, of course, drive-bys. It's just unseemly. It's unpresidential. It's juvenile. It's sophomoric. So I was going to ask if any of you Trump voters were embarrassed by it. That Trump didn't create it, but he retweeted it. I mean, he liked it. He wanted people to see it. But I know you're not mad about it. I don't need to ask you. I know you're laughing yourself silly like I did. It's funny. It's funny, and it works because it's got an element of truth in it. That's exactly what happened to her. You know, in this book, have you seen the latest? I saw a picture today. Mrs. Clinton's at a book signing at Costco, and you know where they've got her? They've got her near the toilet paper. She's sitting there, and there are pallets and pallets of toilet paper. I'm not making this up. I wouldn't make it up. I don't have to make it up. I mean, and there's a trickle. I don't know. But there's just a trickle line of people going through there. There's a controversy. Amazon deleted a whole bunch of reviews of her book on the first day. Most of them were negative, but there were some positives, so it's a big controversy. Amazon says we deleted them because there is no way that many people had read her book in toto in able to write a review. We don't consider those reviews real. A review that gets posted the day the book comes out, we don't think it's real. So they smacked it. They got rid of, I don't know how many it was. It was maybe 1,500 or 900. I don't remember the exact number. And then the quote-unquote real reviews came in. But it reminds me, there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal last Thursday, an opinion piece, Kimberly Strassel, who is brilliant, op-ed writer at the Wall Street Journal. And her piece was what really happened to Hillary. Because Hillary's running around. It's unseemly, continuing to make excuses and blame everybody else. And I have to tell you something, folks. Crazy Bernie's out there doing his own version of this. He's out there getting mad at Hillary for blaming him, which is what she's doing. And Crazy Bernie is saying that if he hadn't been rigged out of the nomination, he would have been elected, which isn't true. Strassel points out that Crazy Bernie failed to deliver votes for her in all these states where he did go campaign. He went a little bit Pennsylvania, went a little bit Michigan and Wisconsin. And her point was, if there's so much support for Crazy Bernie, where was it helping Hillary? It wasn't there. Her point is that Crazy Bernie nor Hillary are the answer to the Democrat Party. Neither one of them would have beaten Trump in the Electoral College. Neither one of them would have gotten close. And if the Democrats think that Hillary's problem was that she didn't go left enough and that Crazy Bernie would have done better, Strassel's point, she's looked at the data, she's sifted through it, and she's concluded that either one of them would have lost, because if there was this much overwhelming support for Crazy Bernie, where was the evidence of it when he was out campaigning for her? Why was he unable? Some might say, well, his voters were so upset that they would. Well, that's a problem, too. And I don't care if his voters are mad at Hillary, mad that he got rigged. If their guy is still out there urging them to do something for the party to beat Trump, and they don't do it, then what's to suggest that Crazy Bernie as a presidential candidate is going to be persuasive? So the bottom line is, you've got Hillary sitting next to pallets of toilet paper at Costco signing her book, which is filled with excuses, blaming everybody but herself. From Comey to, well, the list is, the only thing wrong with that is I didn't make it. I asked myself, am I slipping? I used to be on every Hillary hit list. I mean, I usually was in the top 2, top 5. I'm not even on this one. But then again, hardly anybody is named. She names groups of people. But no, don't start a rumor that I'm going to buy Rolling Stone. I don't want to buy Rolling Stone. I don't want to. No. Snerdley wants to start a rumor that I'm going to buy Rolling. That's up for sale now. You know why? They are dead after running the fake rape story at UVA and getting creamed in court over it. Jan Winter has said, I'm out of here. Maybe he can get Bezos to buy it and make it the weekly magazine of the Washington Post. That's what they ought to do. Make Rolling Stone, like New York Times has their Sunday magazine, and the Post has one of their own, but get this thing in there, put it in the rotation. Let Bezos buy it. Use it. Have stacks of Rolling Stone next to Hillary book signings instead of toilet papers, one and the same. The point is the Democrats, name for me who is the front runner. Who's on the list of front runners for 2020 Democrat Party? My point made, Joe Biden. Okay? Joe Biden's what, 70 some odd? Joe Biden hasn't won anything on his own on the ballot. Who else? Elizabeth Warren? Sorry, ain't happening. That's imagined excitement as well. One of the Castro brothers, yeah, that was a big dream. One of the Castro brothers in San Antonio. That hasn't worked out for him either. The Democrat voters. Andrew Cuomo, the brother of Fredo, governor of New York. Yeah. And Rahm Emanuel, his name gets tossed. But none of them are, man, the Democrats don't have anybody excites them. What they have is hatred for Trump. But the picture of Hillary Clinton blaming everybody, including Crazy Bernie, and Crazy Bernie furthering the illusion that he could have won if the nomination had been rigged against him. This is another reason why I get so frustrated over what the Republicans are not doing, and that's taking advantage of all this. This party is waiting to be buried. The Democrat Party is already losing elections. I know you get mad at me when I say that, but they're already losing elections. Big time. And it is a trend that should continue. Here's this piece. The party's over. Republicans and Democrats are both finished. Here's some pull quotes from the story. It's a CNBC piece that ran on Friday. The important thing to remember is that all the craziness we're seeing in Washington these days is not just the result of this president's personality or some new level of political anger across the country. An old order that's been in place for generations that kept a lid on the kind of chaos we've seen in recent months has crumbled. That's a reference to the establishment. It's a reference to the swamp. And what it means is that the establishment has made sure that anybody in it of prominence who is going to seek the highest office is of a certain personality type, buttoned down, dull, boring, quasi-intelligent, or super intelligent perception-wise, is the case with Obama. But there is a club-like dress code, a club-like approved mode of behavior, and of course Trump doesn't fit into any of it. And this guy's point is that if Trump can come in here and throw the establishment upside down, throw it for loops, totally discombobulate it, with chaos being the result, means they are failing to keep the lid on their club. And I know what he means. It's a very exclusive club. There are behavior codes. There are ways you can get excommunicated and thrown out, things you have to do to stay in the good graces. And in the process, they've kept everybody within certain boundaries in terms of public speaking, behavior, appearance, and so on. Trump has just thrown it all out the window, and people are liking it. Some people, yeah, Trump's real. None of this fake, none of this button-down phoniness. Real guy. So he goes on to say here, there are uncharted waters here for sure, but they may not lead to such bad results. After all, The partisan political structure in place for so long has brought us numerous wars, $20 trillion in debt, and a government that's grown well beyond its usefulness. Exactly. And I'm not going to go through it again, but I would throw in the destruction of the whole idea of the college education is part of what this group has done. They've made it so expensive that graduating with a degree is only the beginning of your problems. Dealing with the debt that you have, because it costs so damn much to go. You can't deny, war, folks. The way to look at war, in many ways, not all, the way to look at war is it's a bang-up business. It is one hell of a business. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why there always seem to be wars going on? Any day of the year, there's a war somewhere going on. You ever wondered, do you remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? Remember that show with Robin Leach? For a 2 or 3 year stretch in that show, the big celebrity was an arms dealer named Adnan Khashoggi. He was Saudi Arabian. Now, they didn't tell everybody he was an arms dealer. They pushed him as a Rolls-Royce driving, multiple pool, multiple wife, brilliant guy, fascinating investor, smarter than anybody. The guy was an arms dealer. The guy was a middleman for people that didn't have access. Say, you want to buy some tanks or some missiles or jets from the Department of Defense. Well, if you're from East San Cordoba, you just can't call and get them. But Adnan Khashoggi could get them for you, and he took a hefty fee, and that's why he was wealthy. He was an arms dealer. And there are lots of people around the world that do what Adnan Khashoggi did and does. They get wealthy. War is a very profitable business. Look at you have to make the weapons. You have to make the ammo. You have to make the support material like the Humvees. Look at all of it. United States of America sells a heck of a lot of war stuff, and there are a lot of people that make a lot of money from it. And a lot of them are in the establishment in Washington, D.C. Now, some cases, wars are actually fought to vanquish bad guys, too. And in some cases, it's a combination of things. But the next time any president promises you a troop withdrawal from country X and it doesn't happen, ask yourself why. And then when steps are taken to prolong the war, such as rules of engagement that basically allow our guys not to shoot anything, just prolongs the war, prolongs the need for armaments, and so forth. Yeah, then you got guys like this potbelly dictator North Korea launching missiles every day. That's a guaranteed reason to make sure you keep making them. No. I'm not saying somebody's paying the guy to launch. No. That's not my point. I'm just saying that it's a big business. Uncharted waters for sure. Establishment has led to a lot of bad results. Numerous wars, $20 trillion. These from the smart people, the best and the brightest, people that are far more qualified than you and I to hold these positions. And what have we got? Then he says, love or hate it, it's time to face this new reality. The Democrat and Republican parties, as we know them, are finished. And the politicians, the people who give them money, and the people who cover them need to adjust accordingly. Now, it's this guy's opinion. His name is Jake Novak at CNBC. And I just gave you a few pull quotes. It's a little longer than what I've shared with you. We'll link to it at rushlimbaugh.com. But there's something to it. When you look at Trump, and in the normal political structure of Washington, Trump would not have been elected. I mean, nobody outside of Trump, after his opening statement, would have been elected. Remember how the swamp couldn't figure it out? Here comes a guy with his wife down the escalator at Trump Tower and immediately launches into a rant on illegal immigration and how most of them are Mexicans who are rapists and criminals and thugs, and we're going to kick them out and keep them from coming in. And then he said, doesn't respect people like McCain because he doesn't like military people to get captured. He likes generals and so forth that evade capture. Imagine George W. Bush saying that, or Mitt Romney, or Obama, or Bill Clinton, or Hillary. They're done for. It's the end of them. And the swamp thought it was. I mean, I remember after that announcement, turned on Fox and CNN, and people are laughing themselves. They thought it was the greatest comedy routines they'd ever seen, and they're all analyzing, okay, what's Trump's real purpose here? Is he promoting the upcoming season of The Apprentice? What's he doing here? Nobody thought he could have possibly been serious. And then it just keeps getting, from their perspective, worse. Then it starts insulting women. In their view, he starts insulting women. And then, of course, it kept going. And he had the Access Hollywood tape, the Billy Bush. There's not a single establishment person that would have been on that tape. Mitt Romney, George W. Bush would not have come out of a trailer talking to Billy Bush about what celebrity allows you to do with and for women. It just wouldn't have happened. It would have been a violation of behavior codes. The hair. There's nobody in the world with orange hair that would have ever been elected. And orange makeup. None of it mattered. Yeah, and with the eyes were not orange. It looked like he's an orange raccoon with the makeup job. So there may be something to this, that the parties are on their way, if not to being finished, to being redefined. But both parties are in denial. The first party that has people in it that recognizes what's happening here and can find a way to get in front of it and become part of it, kind of like the Republicans didn't want any part of the Tea Party either. Remember that? Imagine what would have happened if they'd embraced the Tea Party. But they didn't. Strangely enough, why would you not embrace the Tea Party if you are a Republican? But they didn't want any part of it. I got to take a break. I just saw the clock. We're back in a moment. Don't go away. Trump is not a partisan. Remember that. And by that, I mean he's not an ideologue. He doesn't have an ideological grounding, conservative, liberal. He just doesn't. A lot of people don't. He's one of them. It's one of the most amazing things about him, and that he got elected that way, but it's quite telling, don't you think? And the media refuse to believe it. They're going to pigeonhole him, and they're going to cookie cutter him, and since he's GOP, he's going to be a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, white supremacist, no matter what. Because that's what it's not who they think Republicans really are. It's how they have decided to characterize Republicans in order to beat them. They don't think Republicans. They're friends with Republicans inside the Beltway. They don't think McCain's a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, except when he runs for office, for president. And they don't think Romney's all those things they said about him. But when these guys seek high office, that's what they become. So does Trump. But Trump isn't a Republican. He may be on some days, and other days he'll start acting like a Democrat, and other days he acts like neither one. And that bothered, because they used to, like I pointed out, being nonpartisan, being bipartisan, that was the way to go. And now that Trump's the guy doing it, they hate that. By the way, Glenn Thrush, New York Times, decided to delete his Twitter account at midnight tonight. Too much of a distraction, he says. Now, why do you think that is? I'll tell you why. It's because Trump is prospering there, and they haven't been able to destroy him there. So they're going to, the hell with it. If Trump's there, I'm not going to be. I'll bet you a bunch of drive-bys drop their Twitter accounts. Thrush leading the way. We'll see. Here at the EIB Network, back to the phones. Kokomo, Indiana. This is Bill. It's great to have you, sir. Hi.
Yes, sir. Great honor. Like you, I'm interested in the NFL ratings and how the politics plays into it. And so I was checking to see what the ratings were doing this year. And the first story I linked to on a Google search said that the ratings decrease this year was due to the protest that was started by the folks that were upset about Colin Kaepernick's treatment by the NFL. And I thought that was kind of funny because for like the last year, folks have been bending over backwards to try and tell us that the people who were boycotting the NFL because of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, that had no effect.
Wait a minute. I want to make sure I heard this right. You went on a Google search, and they threw at you a USA Today story, which says the reason the NFL is losing audience is because people are upset, not at Kaepernick, but rather upset at the way he's being treated by the NFL.
Yes, sir. I believe it was a Manicow newspaper. It said underneath the Manicow, Manicow, said USA Today affiliate. And they went on to list how many Twitter followers he has, and 30,000 people this and 300,000 people that. And I thought it was really funny because all I've heard for a year was, well, everybody's watching because their cable is getting cut or they're cutting the cable, but Kaepernick had nothing to do with any of it.
You know, that last point, cord cutting, that's happening faster than anybody thought. I don't think I printed this. I saw it over the weekend as I was perusing the tech blogs. So cut me some slack if I don't remember the number right. But this can't be. It's something like 35 or 40 million people have canceled satellite cable over like in a 6 or 8 month period. In order to go streaming and so forth. But I have to refind the story. But regardless what the number is, people cutting the cord, that is canceling cable or canceling satellite, is happening it's all millennials, most of it, and it's happening much faster than anybody thinks. Now, and that obviously is going to have an effect on live TV ratings. There's another aspect of this thing I saw, that millennials are watching TV but not live. You know, they'll watch, I don't know, it's in The Last Ship. The Last Ship's a TNT show that airs on Sunday night. They'll watch it, but during the week. They won't watch it live as it is aired or broadcast live. And that's a ratings challenge, and to find that viewer. Nielsen measures real-time viewing. They're trying to accommodate DVR, people that record programs on satellite or cable to watch them later, but streaming, that's a whole other challenge to get those. So it may well be that it's not that fewer people are watching, it's just how, and the ratings people are having trouble catching them. Now, on Kaepernick, this is classic. I can assure you the NFL's ratings are not down because people are mad at the NFL over how they're treating Kaepernick. The media is treating it that way. The media is mad at the NFL. The media is trying to get you mad at the NFL. The media has made Kaepernick a champion. And they're trying to peddle this story that Kaepernick is a great player and a team would eminently be helped if he were their quarterback. But the league is filled with racist white supremacist owners. And they're not going to have somebody who's going to protest the country or the flag. And they are they're trying to create that narrative that viewers are actually in Kaepernick's corner. It's just the opposite. And I'm going to tell you something else now. These pregame protests that take place on the sidelines, they're now beginning to happen in the game. And that ain't going to help. What do you mean it's happening? Well, one instance yesterday, the Bennett brothers, Martellus Bennett plays for the Green Bay Packers. His brother Michael Bennett plays for the Seattle Seahawks. Michael Bennett was in Las Vegas recently before the season started. He was in a strip club or some other similar type establishment where gunfire broke out. The cops were called. Among the people fleeing the scene, after the cops told everybody to stop where they were, was Michael Bennett. So the cops, entering a scene like that, gunfire, everybody is worried about being shot, so they tell everybody to stop. hold your ground, put down your guns. If anybody doesn't and starts running away, they're going to get chased. That's what happened. And Michael Bennett said that they threatened to blow his effing head off and said they treated him like some third-rate citizen because of race. So, and his brother for the Packers, Martellus, obviously supports it. A lot of NFL players support him. We don't know what really happened. I don't think he had anything to do with the event. It's just that he ran when they told everybody to shut up. Well, yesterday he tried to do the Black Power salute on the field after a play. I didn't see it. I don't know if he's an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. He made a sack or something. They're telling us he gave the Black Power salute, but his fist wasn't closed with his hand up in the air, like John Carlos and the other guy at the Mexico Olympics in 1968. They did the Black Power salute. It looked like he was emulating that. Whether he did or not, it was reported that he did, and so it has been reported that a player has continued to protest the racism of the NFL actually on the field. He does sit down and take a knee during the anthem, and he has two Seahawks players on either side with their hands on his shoulder offering support, one black, one white. They're making a spectacle of this. And the players it's growing. These protests are growing. They're not being cut back. Certain owners like Jerry Jones and Clark Hunt, the Cowboys and Chiefs, are asking their players not to do this, to respect the country, to respect the flag, because it's a respect for the fans. It's respect for the people who are paying to enter the stadium and watch the game. The owners are asking, please respect them if you don't think you can respect the flag or the country. I don't know if there's been any protest for the Cowboys or Chiefs players, but the idea that NFL viewership is down because fans are mad at the NFL because Kaepernick doesn't have a job is folly. It's absolute. It's insanity. It's hilariously incorrect. But if they want to lie to themselves, and the left does this a lot, if they want to lie to themselves about what's really going on, if they want to lie to themselves about public opinion, if they want to lie to themselves about what the majority of people in this country think on any given issue, go right ahead. You're going to continue to lose elections. You're going to continue to support candidates who are going to lose elections. So you go right ahead. You purposely want to misread the majority thought on culture, morality, patriotism, whatever it is. If you want to misread it in the sports media, in the drive-by media, you go right ahead. Be my guest. Caroline, Corpus Christi, Texas. This is your turn. Great to have you on the program. How are you?
Hi, Rush. I'm just great. Oh, it's what an honor to visit with you.
Thank you.
Rush, I wanted to talk to you about the movie The American Assassin. I've listened to you forever, and I'm a big fan of Vince Flynn, and I'm kind of like you. I feel like I lost a dear friend when he passed away. Anyway, after listening to your review of the book, I have Netflix, and I thought, I'll just wait. I couldn't wait. I grabbed a ticket Saturday and went out to watch the movie, and I loved it. I thought Mitch was maybe a little bit too young, but then I had to relate this was one of his first books. And, Mitch has been around a long time, so
right.
We've watched him grow a little bit older. But, and the sea scene when they blew up the atomic bomb I thought was great. But I was telling your screener, I said, I'm an elderly lady, and at the end of the movie, I had one of those nice seats. I looked down, and I had pulled my knees up in front of me, and I was hanging on like I was on one of those ships.
Oh, really? And you didn't know it?
I thought, I looked around, and I thought, I hope no one sees me looking like this. But it was a great movie, and I'm like you. I just felt like we've lost a great friend. I've read every one of his books. I put my husband on to him and my son-in-law, and they absolutely love him. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is we love your tea. So please don't ever stop making your tea.
Oh, no. That'll never happen.
And my son-in-law is a fan of yours, and so every Father's Day, he gets a supply of Rush's tea.
That's awesome.
And
That's
the easiest gift I can give Rush. All I have to do
what is your favorite flavor?
Oh, your raspberry.
Yeah, isn't that good?
It's so good. And it's so easy because all I have to do is go to the computer and go boom, 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 and he's got the gift. And then sometimes they live across the country, and it's so great if he'll pick me up to the airport and it's in the middle of the day, he's listening to Rush.
That's awesome.
And I have to say one more thing. Being by myself now, if I'm in the car or at home, you are my companion for 3 hours.
Well, God bless you. I subconsciously know this. It's how I treat everybody. I treat everybody like we're just one giant group of friends or family or what have you. So I very humbly appreciate that.
I feel like you're part of my family now, and we agree on so many things. And to find someone that loves the books like I loved.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. Did you, when you in the movie, Irene Kennedy is African American? What was your reaction to that?
Well, I had no problem with her, except I thought she was too young for the part. I kind of had Irene as an older person.
That's a good. Yeah, I always imagined Irene Kennedy to be in her 60s and a doddering old sort of a schoolmarm type that was just brilliant.
Right.
But, when they cast these parts, they've got to think of who goes to watch movies.
Yes.
And this actress was great. In the role.
That's interesting because I had Irene pictured exactly like you had her pictured.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought, just a little bit too young.
Well, I also have the benefit of being able to ask Vince. I said, is Irene Kennedy a looker or not? He said, no, Irene Kennedy is not. You shouldn't think of Irene Kennedy. She's a full-fledged lifer, professional intelligence official. She's not. I said, what about Mitch? Who's Mitch? He wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me who he had in mind for Mitch. It was a game. I always thought, if you saw Vince, he was Mitch. See a picture of Vince, he was Mitch. I'm saying the guy was a stud. Especially had the burr cut, he had everything. He was just a stud. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Caroline. I really do. I'm a little long here. Have to take a brief time out, and we'll be right back. You're looking at me like you've got some. So, Rush, is Irene Kennedy a looker? That was your question for Vince? And Vince said, no, you shouldn't think of her that way. She is the epitome of an intelligence official. Rush, are you telling us that the epitome of an intelligence official cannot be attractive? No, folks, I'm not. I totally understand the snark in the email. I kind of did step into that because I was just being my regular guy self here without any concerns for political correctness. I did ask him. We read the Vince Flynn books. You get to know Vince Flynn. You ask him about the characters. And Irene Kennedy is brilliant. She's a boss. Vince Flynn looks up to her. It's natural. Is she a looker? She's a character. Well, in a book, with no picture there. I'm asking the author, what does she look like? I chose to ask, is she a looker? Guys talk this way. I'm sorry, ladies. We talk this way. And you better be glad that we do. It's what makes babies. Well, it is. I'm sorry. My dad told me that, and I thought, what are you talking about? It's right. Anyway, I did not mean to imply that professional women cannot be, nor did I mean to infer from Vince's answer that. It was about this particular character, and that's how he chose to describe her to me. She is. She's a looker in the movie. She's African American. She's the epitome of, she is the boss. She's the boss of a black ops unit is what she is. She's not the CIA director. Later on in the book, she becomes a CIA director. She's not in the early stages, but she runs the black ops unit, which Mitch is the predominant member of, and that's who he loves and respects and admires. And it's to the CIA director that Irene Kennedy goes to not ask, but to tell him what the black ops people are doing. looking at the clock, making a time value judgment, and yes, Gino in Houston. Next you are. Welcome to the EIB Network. Hi.
Hello, Rush, my main man.
Great to hear from you, Gino. How are you?
Good. I am now one of your so-called staunch Trump supporters.
Okay.
And I tell you why quickly. Number one, every time they beat, kick, and slur my president, I become more entrenched. You know, the man, he is a common man president. He is not a swamp dweller. That's my comment. Now I have a question. And this I give you with my heart. Why don't you go on Fox News for a half hour show? And if it does well, obviously you would go on for an hour show. You know, you would rate higher than all the pundits combined. It just makes me go crazy when I listen to you and I listen to all of the crazy pundits out there, and I don't ever understand why you don't do that. You know, you could do a half-hour show and still be on EIB.
Yeah. Look, I've answered this in a number of different ways before, but I owe you one. But I got to take a break here because I have no time. Just this cleared. It just got this from Breitbart. Headline: NBC News launches media site. NBC News has just announced a new unit that will be dedicated to covering the media. Like Howard Kurtz covers the media for Fox News. Little Brian Stelter covers the news for CNN. You know, analyzes the media. How did we, the media, do this week? They ask themselves. And they go through this phony baloney criticism of some things, but mostly they criticize the audience for thinking what they think about the media. However, the rest of the headline is this: NBC News launches media site, staffs it with leftists. Well, that's all there is in the drive-by media. John Nolte with the story for Breitbart. Gabriel Sherman, who has written all of the anti-Roger Ailes articles and book. Gabriel Sherman, New Yorker or New York, in one of the two. Ben Smith, the social justice warrior from BuzzFeed. Kara Swisher, she's a tech blogger. Used to be at the Wall Street Journal, now something called Recode. She's a huge Trump hater. She is totally immersed in Silicon Valley culture and media. And a second editor from that site, Recode, Peter Kafka. So this place, this new unit that NBC has, there's another guy, a guy named John Huey, who hates Trump as well. Describes Senate candidate Roy Moore in Alabama as the American Taliban. And then there's the Obamacare cheerleader Stephen Brill, who used to have a specific website of his own. So NBC News just announced a new hub dedicated to covering the media, and this is who the media analysts are. And every one of them is a hard left, deeply buried and committed anti-Trumper, never-Trumper, and Trump haters. And you have many different sexual orientations there. You have many sexual genders. You have the male-female makeup. I don't know if there are any African Americans in the unit. But if there aren't, I'm sure they'll fix it once they realize it. So that's that. So it's just something else to avoid. Now, television, I don't know how many times. Folks, it's intriguing. I will admit to you, it's intriguing. What would be, Mr. Snerdley, what, you've heard me explain this enough. Your answer to this question will help me answer this. You've heard as much as I've ever said about thoughts on TV. What in your memory, there's no wrong answer. What do you think the number one reason that I don't do television is? Okay. Well, what Mr. Okay, the last thing you said, you got it. Mr. Snerdley said the lack of spontaneity and endless meetings. Here's the answer, folks. To do television, you have to collaborate. You can't just, you can't do a TV show the way I do this. I don't have a single meeting. I don't consult anybody. I don't tell anybody what I'm going to talk about. I often don't know until the show starts. And I never, ever lay out the order in which I'm going to get to things. I organize things in stacks here, but I don't put them in order. The whole thing is improv. And it simply isn't possible on TV. And I learned this when I did a TV show for 4 years. That was a 22-minute show, and every show required 2 meetings a day that added up to 3 times as long as the show was. Many of the meetings were looking at audio clips and saying, yes, yes, no, no. No, I don't want to. What do you mean? If I bought that, it still wouldn't change. You can't do a TV show alone. You have to have camera people. They have to know where they're going. You have to have people in the booth who know what soundbite you're going to use or video clip. That all has to be prearranged before you do it. You can't, I mean, you've got to have, there's a stage manager, there's a floor manager, there's a lighting director, there's a makeup person, there's all these things, but the main thing, I don't collaborate. I don't even like to collaborate. I can't, sitting down and telling people and planning a program, I'm not capable of it. Live improv TV, there wouldn't be any video sound bites then. There wouldn't be, because that stuff all has to be planned. You have to make sure you've got it. It has to be timed out. They have to put it in the machine in the order you're going to use it. You've just killed improv right there. Do it on, I'm sure I could. I don't, nobody, TV is not made to do a show like this on TV. So you have to accommodate the way TV does things. And that includes collaborating. Well, let's say I had a, let's go nightly. Let's say I had a 6 p.m. Just not picking a day part specific, but something after this program. Before this program started, I have to have a phone call with somebody at the TV network, say, this is what I'm interested in. But I wouldn't know for sure because the day's not halfway done. So that meeting would ultimately be useless because there's going to be things happen after that meeting that I'm going to want to put in there. So then after the show, there'd have to be another meeting before I go to the TV studio to review what happened in the first meeting and then add things that might be taken out from the first meeting. And by that time, I'm feeling so hemmed in and so narrowly existent that I don't have any room to go outside those boundaries because nobody can follow me. I can do what, with radio, it's so much different. Today I've got 25 sound bites. They're not in any order. They're just there. And as I go through the program, I decide, and I tell sometimes the broadcast engineer 2 seconds before I want it. Not possible in TV. If it's not possible to have 25 video sound bites and to be able to call one up as you want it and happen. No, it's not. It'd take a couple of minutes while I'm twiddling my thumbs waiting for it, and then the spontaneity is gone. There's also, well, it wouldn't be my hearing, but since I don't do guests, that wouldn't be a problem. But I couldn't wear an IFB, which means the people in the booth couldn't talk to me, which would be a benefit. So that could be, the fact that I can't hear would be a net positive excuse not to listen to anybody. And so I have a firm, folks, I think there's certain people, because TV is all visual. I can tell you the 4 years I did TV, the number of times people told me they remembered something I said, I can count on one hand. And the number of times they commented on my tie or a video clip or whatever were legion. It's a visual medium. And you have to look the part. so forth. And you know, monologues on TV, I don't know if they work. It's all possible. You know, TV is evolving. There's no, it's all kinds of things are possible now. But I don't do writers. Have you ever watched the credit roll of, say, Real Time with Bill Maher or a 30-minute comedy show? Look at the credit roll for the writers. I don't have any. There aren't any. Research assistants who plug in facts and figures now and then, but there's nobody writing down what is said on this, including me. And then there is the time factor, and I don't know, but I never totally rule it out. Let's just leave it to that. I want to get back to once a year, yeah, but that wouldn't amount to, maybe once a week. Somebody said you need to do once a week. So once a week they push out weekend. Nobody sees it. I might do once a week if it's a weeknight. Well, then they'd have to broom somebody. So I'll give somebody a 4-day week and put me in there one day. Just one night a week. And then, I was watching a particular show the other night. First time I've had cable TV on in a while. And I was thinking, I'd love to be on this show at the end of every segment, giving my opinion on what just happened. Segment ends, host, okay, let's go to Rush and find out what just happened on this show. And then I would do 5 or 6 or 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4, on whoever said what that was stupid and correct them. And then the host takes the show back and does the next segment. After that segment, they throw it to me, and I comment on what I just heard. Host and guest, and then do that, maybe 4 appearances an hour on an hour show. And I could do that from the couch. They could put a camera in my house. I could be sitting there on the couch like a viewer watching at home and reacting like everybody else watching the show, what I thought of it. You'd really need a host with a strong ego and a backbone to put up with something like that. Anyway, I mentioned at the top of the program, the Wall Street Journal had a story on Friday. I think it was for the days last week run together. It might have been Saturday, Sunday. The story was that the Trump administration was not going to actually pull out of the Paris Climate Accords, as Trump has announced twice. There was a meeting of administration figures and UN climatologists in Canada. And the Journal reported that Americans from the Trump administration at this meeting said that Trump was seriously considering re-entering the Paris Climate Accords, but he wanted to reopen it and negotiate better terms. My heart sank. My first reaction was, I hope this is fake news, but then I treated it as though it wasn't. Because it could have been real, and that to me would be a deal breaker, because that issue is everything the left wants. Everything they want to screw up this country and to advance their agenda is in the whole climate change issue. Everything. The growth of government, the increase of taxes, the blaming of the people for the problem, the reduction of progress, moving backwards technologically. The progress is what they blame, and they blame the United States primarily for climate change. I don't even believe that we can cause it. I do not deny it happens, because you'd have to be an idiot. Of course the climate, but I believe it's too complex for anybody to understand. I don't believe a consensus agrees in science. It You can't have science up to a vote. I just don't believe we have the power to cause it because we obviously don't have the power to change what we would be doing. We can't stop it from happening. How could we cause it? It is a giant left-wing issue, and brain-dead liberals have bought it hook, line, and sinker. Young people have been convinced because they've grown up being told the world isn't going to be here by the time they're 60. They are scared to death. They can't afford not to believe it. They're totally all in. Everything the left wants, brainwashing, propaganda, turning people away from self-reliance and individual, everything they want is in this issue. And the greatest thing Trump has done so far is pull us out of the Paris deal. It doesn't get much play, but it's every bit as important as immigration. It's every bit. And when I read that they want to that they want to re-enter it, okay, Bannon's gone, Reince Priebus is gone, and who's left? Democrat liberal influences on Trump. Family members, Gary Cohn and his group in there. And Tillerson, he's apparently a believer from his Exxon days because they have to look like they care about being in big all. And I'm saying, this can't be. This is worse than not repealing Obamacare, or as bad. And then the news came out later that that's fake news, that the White House immediately denied it, but the denial was a non-denial denial. The denial did not comfort me. The denial confirmed the story a little bit. Well, yes, we want better terms. What do you mean better terms? You don't need terms if you're not in it. Let the rest of the world punish themselves. We don't need to join this. This is insane, I'm saying. Then I arrive here today, and I see a Breitbart story acknowledging that the Wall Street Journal story is fake news, but I haven't seen that said anywhere else. Then I got the audio soundbite roster that I could not use on TV the way I'm going to use it here. And I've got Tillerson saying, we do want to get back into Paris, and I got H.R. McMaster saying, no freaking way. Now, Tillerson's a cabinet member, Secretary of State. H.R. McMaster looks like, this guy, you've seen H.R. McMaster, put a couple earrings on this guy, and he is Mr. Clean, cleaning up your kitchen. Dead ringer for Mr. Clean. You millennials may not know who Mr. Clean is. Is that they still make this stuff? Oh, they do? Mr. Clean has new... Okay, well, then the millennials do who Mr. Clean is. Well, unless millennials hire people to clean their places for them. Anyway. Oh, and then there was a story last week. Bald guys are considered the sexiest and the most dominant. The alpha male bald guys, apparently women swoon. I said, really? You learn things every day. So I've got these two sound bites, and it's obviously, I don't know what to believe now. I do not know what to believe. So take a break. I'll play the sound bites for you, which will be interesting. Stick with it. Chris Wallace speaking with the National Security Advisor, H.R. Mr. Clean McMaster, about reports that the Trumpster has decided against pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. Question. There's a report this weekend that says President Trump has decided he's not going to pull out of the Paris deal, that we may reduce our commitment to curb greenhouse gas emissions, but he's going to live with the agreement, stay in the agreement with a reduced commitment. Is that true, sir?
No, it's false. That's a false report. The president decided to pull out of the Paris Accord because it was a bad deal for the American people and because it was a bad deal for the environment.
So he's out of the Paris Climate Accord.
He's out of the Paris Climate Accord, but he said the door's open. The president's ears are open, though, if at some point they decide that they can come forward with an agreement that addresses the president's very legitimate concerns about Paris.
See, they're leaving the door open here. Even after the denial, they're leaving the door open. He's right. It is bad for the environment. The Paris Accord doesn't do anything. That's the crazy thing. The Paris Accord is nothing but a symbolic POS. It's just a symbolic thing, and it's all, what it is nations promising to try to reduce CO2 by whatever amount they fill in the blank. That's all it is. But when you sign on to it, you're essentially agreeing with the premise that the United States is leading the way in the destruction of the climate. And I'm sorry, folks, but I just can't accept it. It isn't true. And I'm so tired of my country being blamed for everything when we are the solution to the world's problems, not the cause. We have time. Yeah, here's Tillerson. He's on Face the Nation. Asked the same question. Trump said it was time to exit. So what is the administration position on this, Secretary Tillerson?
Well, the position is being led and developed by Gary Cohn over at the National Economic Council. I think the plan is for Director Cohen to consider other ways in which we can work with partners in the Paris Climate Accord. We want to be productive. We want to be helpful. The U.S. actually has a tremendous track record on reducing our own greenhouse gas emissions.
So there's a chance that if things get worked out, both on the voluntary side from the U.S., the voluntary restrictions for the U.S., that it could change, but then also with China, there's a chance the U.S. could stay in the accord. Is that right?
I think under the right conditions.
So there you have it. So you have McMaster denying but leaving the door open, and Tillerson saying, oh, yeah, if we could renegotiate this thing so that's what we want in there, we'll do it. Now, I know you Trump supporters think if Trump does it, it's going to be great. Folks, signing on to this thing is the equivalent of agreeing with the premise of the leftists that we're causing it. Not just us, but we're the leaders of the bad guys here. We have the most technologically and highly advanced culture, society, country in the world, and that's what they claim. The emissions of all these fossil fuel usages, CO2, is causing it. It's bogus. It's more CO2 than just none of this is rooted in scientific truth. And I just cringe at the thought we could, this is not good. Here's the latest from Politico. This is about an hour or so ago on Gary Cohn. Gary Cohn is the economic guy. He is a liberal Democrat, and he's Trump's economic advisor. And don't ask me how he's there. I would guess Jared Kushner. And Trump, I'm sure, knows him. He's a Goldman Sachs guy. You know, Trump knows these New York people. But he's a liberal Democrat. And he's the guy you heard that Tillerson said, well, Secretary Cohn, Director Cohn, considering other ways in which we can maybe be involved in the Paris deal. Yeah, so an hour ago, Politico says top White House aide seeks to clarify U.S. stance on Paris. What did clarify? We're out of it. Trump has announced it twice. There was an announcement and there was an actual maneuver. We actually signed something that took us out of it. Obama had put us in it. We actually signed to remove ourselves from it. I thought it was a done deal. Now, all of a sudden, this thing bubbled up to the surface again. And here's what the Politico says. During a breakfast meeting in New York City on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, White House National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn sought to clarify the U.S. stance after a report the Trump administration planned to remain in the Paris deal sparked some confusion. Director Cohn told about a dozen international energy ministers that the U.S. was prepared to withdraw. I thought we already had. If it doesn't secure better terms. I thought we weren't trying to get back. I thought we had pulled out of this. This is according to two people present at the meeting who asked for anonymity to discuss the private meeting. The sources added that Director Cohn offered few details on what precisely the U.S. wants, but he stressed the administration wants to continue engaging with other countries on energy and climate issues broadly. We are withdrawing, and we made that as clear as it can be. I don't know how to say it any more clearly. That's what I thought, folks. Cohn said, according to a third person, we are withdrawing. It's clear they're negotiating. It's clear they're trying to get... It's clear they want to sign this thing. This thing, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's nothing. It doesn't commit anybody to anything. It's nothing but... And it's a bunch of pages of nothing. It's the signatory nations promising and pledging to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and accomplish other so-called useful things to reduce climate change by 2020, 2030, 2040. You know, it's the usual pap. And under normal circumstances, you could sign and it wouldn't mean beans because it doesn't bind anybody to anything, and there's no penalties in it if you don't. It's pure bunk. But the very fact of signing it accepts a premise that Trump did not campaign on. He doesn't believe climate change is a Chinese hoax. He says that for humor, but he does know what climate change is. It is a left-wing political agenda issue. And it's their religion. If there's any left-wing or, say, millennial people listening to me, they think I'm one of the... They hate me right now. Everything I've said about this, because it's tantamount to somebody attacking Jesus if you're a Christian. You don't want to hear what they have to say. You don't want to debate them. You don't want to argue about it. That's what it is to these people. It is their religion, and I am an agnostic, I'm a heretic, I'm whatever else. They're not interested. They so believe it. It gives their life meaning, gives them something to do. They can save the planet, for crying out loud. What a great, great achievement to be part of. 30 years I've been on this. 30 years. This has been a hoax. 30 years. Hey, folks, when you take the time to investigate all the ways you can protect your family and your home with a home security system, there's one aspect that emerges that's really important. Does the system work? Will you use it? Will you arm it? How many of you have been into a house that has a pretty good system and they never arm it anymore? And you ask, why don't you arm it? And they have a reason. Well, we got tired of the beeps. Well, we've never had a break-in. Well, there's a fault in one of the windows and the fault doesn't go off the display and I don't know how to fix it and I don't want to call it in. We've never had a problem. What's the point of having a system if you don't arm it? If you're not arming it, it isn't going to work. And if it doesn't work, is it protecting your home? Does it alert you when somebody does try to illegally enter? All of this, all these things are reasons the Simply Safe system scores so high in the minds of people doing their homework. The Simply Safe home security system protects your home, no question, but it scores very high when it comes to being easy to install and easy to use. Wireless system, which means you can install it yourself just by sticking sensors and the motion detectors in your home where you want them to be. There are professional installers showing up for days on end with miles of wire, but not with this system. This system comes your way already pre-tested, pre-configured, every component ready to connect with Wi-Fi. Your job is to put the devices where you want them, protect the windows and doors of your home from an intruder, and then glass breaking sensors and motion detectors, cameras if you want them. Once it's all turned on, and it will be within an hour, you test the siren and you download the app. If you want the monitoring service, you want the cops to be called, if there's a break-in, that's up to you. It's available on a month-to-month basis at $14.99, no contract. Simply Safe USA. Go online to see it, simplysafeusa.com. That website is specifically for you. Any deals are there already. Don't need an offer code. simplysafeusa.com. Kyle in Berryville, Virginia. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Great to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. I've been enjoying your show for a long time. I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that, sir, very much. I really do.
So I wanted to give you a little bit of fuel for this NFL issue. I believe also that if you are lucky enough to be a professional athlete, it's only because you live in this country where you have that ability. And it's really a shame that some want to disrespect that. And I'm really glad to see that the attendance and everything is going down and the people watching on TV is going down because of it. I heard you weigh in on that during your first hour. So I was eating lunch during your second hour, and the TV at the restaurant was on ESPN, of course, and they were also talking about the statistics of the poor attendance in L.A. They attributed that very first reason to the stadium being old, broken down, and in need of replacement, repair, whatever, to get the attendance back up.
Which stadium? LA Coliseum?
Correct.
Well, there's no doubt it's a rat trap. I mean, there's no doubt that it's old. But that excuse doesn't hold water because the day before, 81,000 people streamed in the place to watch USC Texas.
Exactly, and it was an awesome game, too.
It was. A bunch of Texas people were staying at the hotel I was staying in Beverly Hills. Those people, you know them when they get out of their limos. You don't even need the big longhorns on the hood. You know these, and it's not the 10-gallon heads. You just know the Texans when they're walking around the hotel. You just know that they're there for. Look, the L.A. Coliseum's been around a long time. It's not in the best neighborhood, but USC doesn't have any problem. Now, I've heard people say, but Rush, that's a whole different thing. You've got students that are there on the cheap. College fervor is much different than a capitalistic enterprise. I don't care. They still sell tickets. You still have to drive there. You still have to park. You still have to buy the beer and the popcorn. Well, beer at college games may not be allowed. I don't know. But still, you got to buy the concessions. You got to put up with all of it. You got to sit up, uncomfortable bench seats and all that stuff. You got to sit out in the sun if that bothers you. It's the same circumstances the Rams or any other pro team has to deal with. You think about this, the NFL, you would think an enterprise this big would want to be honest when people are not watching on TV as much and not going to stadiums. You'd think they'd want to really know what's going on. And did you see pictures of the crowd at the LA Coliseum on Sunday?
I did.
I mean, and the StubHub down in Carson where the Chargers had last 27,000, that wasn't filled. Last week, the 49ers, brand new state-of-the-art stadium, Wi-Fi better than anywhere in the league. It's not filled. There are empty seats all over the league. The NFL's concerned about studio show now because there aren't any blackouts. Every game's on TV, home games and so forth. I would want to know why people aren't watching or attending. I'd want to know the real reason so I could change it. And if they're lying to themselves, if they're thinking people are staying away because they're mad at the way the league is treating Kaepernick, do you know what? There was a guy went to a game, a sports writer went to a game as a fan. Figured the average cost, and I forget where, $500 to take a family to a football game. Now, given that's leisure dollars and that's a discretionary, you don't have to spend that. That's a lot of money to go to a football game where you might have to watch the flag being protested, or you might have to watch the country being protested. If I were the NFL, I'd want to know what the truth is. Wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. It's just amazing to me how fast the excuses come out other than the real reasons we know they are.
Well, everybody, your ESPN, they've got a financial interest. I mean, they're paying over $1 billion a year for one game a week. Monday night game. And they don't even get the best games on Monday Night Football. Those go to Sunday night on NBC, which doesn't pay as much as ESPN does. Look, I got to take a break. There's more on this, but if I don't break, I'm going to have a really short segment coming back. I appreciate the call very much, Kyle. Back on 140 million Americans so they can keep retailers and banks and other entities updated with how good or how bad your credit score was. They're in charge of that. Their database is full of Social Security numbers, birth dates, credit card numbers, and your spending habits in some cases. Online hackers got in there, and that's the exact kind of thing they're looking for. Here's an outfit that determines whether or not you're fit for good credit, and they get hacked. And you don't even know about it for a period of time. Equifax was victim of a security breach, a hack. Hundreds of thousands of online identities got into wrong hands. This is the best example of how your identity could be exposed without you even knowing it, which is why, my friends, you need LifeLock, the single best identity theft protection available. LifeLock goes the distance in monitoring online transactions. They look for evidence of stolen identities, and they find it by seeing aberrations in your spending patterns. They let you know when that happens, and they track it down and find out what it is, even if it's you. And if it is, everybody goes away. But if somebody's spending on your account, you find out about it. And they hustle to try to fix it. Now, here's the thing. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions everywhere. It's not possible, but LifeLock does this better than anybody. You can rely on them. Go to LifeLock.com or call 800-440-4833. Use my name when you sign up. It's promo code. You get 10% off your LifeLock membership. And if something happens, they got a bunch of people, the restoration team, that work with you to fix it. Nobody does that. LifeLock is full service, best out there. 800-440-4833, the offer code RUSH. By the way, a new prize or premium here for new subscribers to Rush 24/7, the newsletter. It's a brand new tumbler, Tervis tumbler, with a yearly subscription to Rush 24/7 or the combo offer, Limbaugh letter and website. It's an exclusive tumbler that is given free to new subscribers. Check it out at rushlimbaugh.com. It's our best tumbler yet. Here's Nate in Lynchburg, Virginia. Hey, Nate, how are you doing?
Hey, Rush, how you doing?
Fine and dandy. Thank you, sir.
I was wondering, if you ever, when you're listening to all these callers, do you ever zone out? Do you ever have a moment like a brain fart or whatever, that you just sort of zone out and you kind of miss whatever? I'm just wondering this because it's like I will listen to you every day, and I love your show. But it's like as I'm driving around and listening to you, I always wonder. I wonder if that guy ever has a moment where he just loses it altogether. It's for me practically impossible for as long as you've been on to be so good.
Well,
with what you do. Do you ever just show up to work and you hate your job? And
no. That never happened. No. There's not a day I wake up and wish I didn't have to go in. Not a day. It's usually just the exact opposite. I'm like everybody else. I hate waking up, but once that process is over, I'm jazzed. I'm ready to go. But yeah, I lose my train of thought now and then. I've just become highly expert at covering it. I'm very lucky. I can go to commercial break. I can make an excuse for a technical problem. It happens. It happens that what way generally happens, I'll be talking to you, and something you'll say will remind me of something I want to say later on in the conversation. The conversation goes on, and I will forget what it was I wanted to say. So I'll keep talking with you, trying to remember what it was. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't. But I'll either acknowledge it or not mention it, in which case nobody would know. It doesn't happen much, but yeah, it happens. I'm really flattered by your comments, though. That's what I call a Bill Belichick question. You can tell when Belichick gets a question he likes because he'll actually answer it, versus most of them where he thinks they're stupid. He says, "We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati," or whoever the next opponent is. Nate, thank you.